This tutorial is intended to give you a very quick introduction to HTML. In order to write HTML, you will need a text editor. You can even use the Notepad text editor that comes with Windows. But for this tutorial, we will be using Visual Studio Code. You could download it for free. Once you have installed the Visual Studio Code, create a folder labeled HTML tutorial, and within it, create a file called index.html. HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language and is the standard markup language for creating web pages. HTML describes the structure of a web page using a bunch of elements called tags. HTML tags label pieces of content such as headings, paragraphs, and links, and tell the web browser how to display your content. The first tag you need is the HTML tag. Most tags in HTML need opening and closing tags. The opening and closing tags are very similar. They both have a greater and lesser than character that encloses a letter or letters. The biggest difference is that the closing tag has a / before the letters. Everything in an individual HTML file will go in between these HTML tags. Technically, you could write all the tags one below the other, but this would make it very difficult to read. It is standard practice to indent tags that are within another tag. Inside the HTML tags, there are two major sections. We have the head and we have the body. There are more sections, but for an introduction, this is enough. The head is where you would place information about the web page, and the body is where you put information about the content of the web page. So let's go through some of the basic and some mandatory tags that are required when building a website. So starting with the head section, all we really need for now is the title tag. Let's give this website the title of My First Website and then save it. Go ahead and open the location where you saved the index.html file. You will now see that it is recognized as a web page by the little Chrome icon if you are using Google Chrome. If you double-click on the file, your web browser will open it. Right now, you will see a page that is completely blank, but you will see the title My First Web Page in the title bar section. The first thing that you add to a page is usually a title. HTML has a number of headings. H1 is usually the biggest heading. Heading tags normally increase the font size and make it bold. The H1 title, like most other HTML tags, has an opening and a closing tag. In addition to the H1 tag, HTML also has H2, H3, H4, H5, and H6 tags. The headings get progressively smaller. H1 can be used as a main heading, and H2 can be used as a subheading. For now, we will just use the H1 heading. Go ahead and type H1. This is a heading, and then close the tag. Now, go ahead and save and then refresh your web page. Now we need to add some text to the web page. Maybe we want to add a paragraph to the page. The P tag can be used to add a paragraph to a web page. Go ahead and add an opening and closing paragraph tag below the H1 tag. Then go ahead and add "This is my first paragraph" to your text editor. Go ahead and save and go back to the web browser. Refresh the screen. You should see "This is my first paragraph" on the screen. You will notice that the font of the paragraph is smaller than the heading. Why? Why is that? Well, web browsers recognize HTML tags. Since we use the correct HTML tags, the web browser recognized the heading and paragraph tags. So, default settings were applied to the web page. Default settings on web browsers set the spacing, font size, indenting, font weight of the text. You can modify the default settings using CSS. We'll get into that in a later lesson. If we want to add another paragraph, we would just add another set of p tags and then some text inside them. Go ahead and add opening and closing paragraph tags with some text. Save and then refresh your web browser. You should now have a heading and 2 paragraphs on your web page. The web page is looking pretty good now with the paragraphs and the heading. Let's improve it by adding an image. Go ahead and use Google to search for a bird image. Right-click on the image and select Save As. Save the image as PNG and add to the same folder where you have your index.html file. In order to add an image to the web page, we must use the img tag. We must then give the tag the path to the image. We can do this by setting some properties within the tag itself. The path to the image is set by using src equals then open and closing quotation marks. The path is then placed within the quotation marks. We placed the image in the same folder as our index.html file, so we can simply type src equals opening quotations bird.png close quotations. If the image was in another folder, we would type src equals opening quotation images /bird.png close quotations. If the images was in a folder one level up, we could use src equals open quotations /images /bird.png and then close the quotation. These are examples of relative file paths and are easier to use than absolute file paths. There are other properties that can be set within the img tag. For example, we can set the width of the image by adding width equals 200 pixels or px. If a width is not specified, the original size of the image will be used. Most HTML tags have an opening and closing HTML tag. The img tag does not have a closing tag. This is because we define everything about the image within the tag itself. So there would be no real purpose in adding an opening and closing tag. The img tag is self-closing. So go ahead and type img space src equals opening quotations bird.png. Save and then go back to the web browser. You should now see some birds on the web page. Let's go over another useful HTML tag, the break tag. Go ahead and create another paragraph, and you can write inside it, this is an example of a really, really long paragraph. It would be really nice if this text could start on a new line. Something like that. Now go ahead and save and look at your web page. You can see that the new paragraph was added, but all the text is in one line. In order to make the second sentence start on a new line, we could use the break tag. To add the break tag, we type BR. This is another example of a self-closing tag. So go ahead and type BR. Go ahead and save and go to the web browser. You should now see the paragraph broken into 2 lines. The final tag that we will go over is the HR tag. Sometimes we want to separate text or sections on a web page with a line. In those instances, we can use the HR tag to create a horizontal line. The horizontal line tag is typed HR space. This is another example of a self-closing tag. Right now, the horizontal line runs all the way across the page. Like the img tag, we can set some properties within the HR tag. For example, we can set the width. Go ahead and type width equals 50%. Save and then go back to the web page to see that the horizontal line is now smaller. So we have now created a very basic HTML page. It's nothing fancy, but we have covered the basics for web pages. You can now take this, practice it, and use it to progress from here to build more advanced pages. I hope you enjoyed this lesson and that you have learned something from it.